There are two kinds of people in every generation. The first kind tells you what they are going to do. They describe their future with eloquence. They paint pictures with their words. They convince you they understand their assignment. The second kind does not waste time on descriptions. They show up transformed. You do not hear about their process until you see their product. The first kind dies with a full mouth. The second kind dies empty. And here is what troubles me most. The majority of humanity has perfected the art of announcement but abandoned the discipline of becoming. Let me submit to you that the distance between what you say and what you are is the measurement of your deception. Not your deception of others, your deception of yourself. You have convinced yourself that declaring your future is the same as constructing it. You believe that understanding your purpose is the same as fulfilling it. You think that identifying your problem is the same as solving it. And this is why you remain in a perpetual state of preparation that never graduates to manifestation. Your mouth has become the graveyard of your destiny. Every time you speak about what you are going to become without submitting to the process that produces it, you abort the seed before it develops roots. You give yourself a satisfaction that you have not earned. You release the tension that should be driving you into discipline. And this is the trap. Talking feels like progress. Explaining yourself feels like growth. Announcing your intentions feels like transformation. But none of these things change your cellular structure. Where purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. But let me add something to that principle. Where process is not respected, becoming is impossible. You cannot announce yourself into a new identity. You cannot describe yourself into a different dimension. You cannot explain yourself into transformation. There is a violence required, a forcing, a breaking, a death. And most of you are not willing to pay that price because you have found a cheaper alternative, words. The manufacturer of any product never confuses the blueprint with the building. The design is not the destination. The plan is not the performance. And yet you have made this catastrophic error with your life. You study the blueprint of who you are supposed to become, and you mistake that study for construction. You analyze the gap between where you are and where you are assigned to be, and you confuse analysis with action. You talk about growth, and you believe that talking is the growth itself. But growth, real growth, does not happen in your understanding. It does not happen in your intentions. It does not happen in your descriptions. Growth happens in the soil of discipline when you force yourself to do what your current identity resists. Growth is violent. It is the breaking of a shell, the tearing of a cocoon, the splitting of a seed. And you cannot talk your way through that violence. You must submit to it. Let me show you the principle. When a manufacturer designs a product, everything that product is supposed to become is already encoded in the original design. The raw material contains the information of its ultimate expression. But that raw material, left alone, will never become the finished product. It requires an external force. It requires pressure. It requires heat. It requires cutting. It requires molding. The raw material does not volunteer for this process. It is forced. And if the raw material could speak, it would protest every step of transformation. But the manufacturer is not concerned with the comfort of the raw material. The manufacturer is committed to the finished product. You are that raw material. Your creator encoded everything you are supposed to become into your original design. Your DNA carries instructions for dominion. Your spirit contains blueprints for authority. Your mind houses the capacity for wisdom. But none of these things manifest by announcement. They manifest by submission to the process that forces you from raw material to finished product. And most of you have been resisting that process because it is uncomfortable. It is painful. It requires you to die to what you are in order to become what you are supposed to be. And this is where your words have betrayed you. Every time you declare what you are going to become without entering the fire that produces it, you give yourself permission to remain comfortable. You tell yourself you are making progress because you can articulate your destination. But articulation is not transportation. Knowing where you are supposed to go does not mean you have started the journey. And the journey, the real journey is not measured in words, it is measured in death. How much of your old self have you been willing to bury? How much of your comfortable identity have you been willing to sacrifice? How much of your current normal have you been forced to abandon? There is a species of bamboo that teaches us something profound about this forcing process. When you plant bamboo, for the first 4 years, you see nothing above ground. Nothing. You water it. You tend the soil. You protect the area. But there is no visible growth, no evidence of life, no proof of progress. And if bamboo could talk, during those 4 years, it would sound exactly like you. It would explain what it is going to become. It would describe the height it is destined to reach. It would announce its future. But bamboo does not talk. Bamboo submits to the underground process. And in those 4 years of invisible activity, bamboo is not dormant. It is developing a root system so extensive that when it finally breaks through the surface, it grows 90 feet in 6 weeks. The principle is this: the visible transformation is always preceded by an invisible preparation. And that invisible preparation, that underground season, is where most of you quit. Because you cannot announce it, you cannot show it to people, you cannot prove it is happening. And your addiction to validation through words has made you allergic to seasons where there is nothing to say. Stop talking about what you are going to become and force yourself into the conditions that produce it. Stop explaining your future and submit to the discipline that constructs it. Stop announcing your transformation and enter the violence that manufactures it. Because here is what you do not understand. Every word you speak about your unbuilt future is evidence that you are still negotiating with the process. You are still trying to find a way to become without dying. You are still looking for transformation without violence. And it does not exist. The caterpillar does not announce that it is going to become a butterfly. It enters a cocoon, and inside that cocoon, everything that makes it a caterpillar is dissolved, liquefied, destroyed. If you could interview the caterpillar mid-process, it could not tell you what it is. It is no longer a caterpillar. It is not yet a butterfly. It is in the terror of the in-between, where its old identity is dead and its new identity has not yet formed. And this is where you must live if you are serious about becoming. In the terror of the in-between, where you can no longer describe yourself with your old labels, but you have not yet manifested the new reality. But you are afraid of that space. So you fill it with words. You describe what you used to be. You announce what you are going to be. But you refuse to live in the silent violence of becoming. And this refusal is why you have not changed. Real transformation happens in the dark, in the quiet, in the place where there is nothing to announce because you are being unmade so thoroughly that language itself fails. You want to become a different person, but you are not willing to stop being the person you are. You want to operate at a different level, but you are not willing to abandon the level you are comfortable with. You want to fulfill a greater assignment, but you are not willing to resign from the lesser assignment you have made peace with. And so you live in this perpetual state of intention without execution, announcement without manifestation, words without transformation. Let me tell you what happened to your potential. Your potential died in your throat. Every time you spoke about what you were capable of without forcing yourself to produce it, you murdered a seed. You gave it a funeral in your conversation, and now you wonder why you feel empty, why you sense you are supposed to be further along, why you have this nagging awareness that you have betrayed yourself. It is because you have. You chose comfort over becoming. You chose validation over transformation. You chose the ease of words over the violence of growth. There is a principle in kingdom economics that most people never discover. Investment requires burial. Before you can expect a return, you must put the seed in the ground. You must cover it with dirt. You must leave it in the darkness. And during that season of burial, the seed looks dead. If you dug it up to check on it, you would be convinced you wasted your seed. But the seed is not dead. The seed is breaking open underground. It is being forced out of its shell. It is sending roots down and shoots up. And this violent underground process, this forced death and resurrection, is what produces the harvest. You have been trying to get a harvest from seeds you never planted. You have been expecting a return on investments you never made. You have been demanding transformation from a process you never entered. And it does not work that way. The universe is designed to respond to activity, not to announcements. Heaven is designed to support what you do, not what you say. Your assignment is activated by becoming, not by talking. And here is what most people miss. The forcing is the favor. The pressure is the promotion. The violence is the vehicle. God, nature, the universe. Whatever language you use for the creative force that governs existence does not send pressure to punish you. It sends pressure to push you out of your old shell. Every difficulty you are facing right now is not evidence that you are off track. It is evidence that you are being forced into alignment with your design. But you have been interpreting the pressure as a problem instead of recognizing it as a process. Stop praying for the pressure to stop. Start submitting to what the pressure is producing. Stop asking for an easier path. Start becoming the person who can handle a harder assignment. Stop trying to negotiate your way out of the fire. Start understanding that the fire is the only thing that can burn off what you are not supposed to be so that what you are supposed to be can emerge. Now let me show you how to force yourself to grow. First, you must identify the gap between your current identity and your assigned identity. And I do not mean your goals. I do not mean your dreams. I mean your assignment. What were you manufactured to produce? What dominion were you encoded to exercise? What problem were you designed to solve? This is not about what you want. This is about what you were built for. And until you know what you were built for, all of your growth will be random, scattered, undirected. You will become better at things that do not matter while neglecting the development of what you were actually created to master. Second, you must stop announcing and start dying. You must identify the parts of your current identity that are incompatible with your assigned identity. And you must kill them. Not slowly, not gradually, not when it feels right. Now, today, this week, you must make the decision that the old version of you dies so the new version can live. And this decision is not emotional. It is administrative. It is a cold calculation. A business decision. The old product line is being discontinued. Production has ceased. The factory is being retooled for a new output. Third, you must enter the discipline before you feel ready. This is critical. You do not wait until you are motivated to force yourself to grow. You force yourself to grow and the motivation follows. You do not wait until you understand everything before you start. You start and understanding comes through the process. You do not wait until the conditions are perfect before you submit to transformation. You submit to transformation and the transformation creates better conditions. Most of you are waiting for readiness, but readiness is not a feeling. Readiness is a decision. Fourth, you must build the structure that enforces your becoming. You cannot rely on willpower. Willpower is finite. Willpower depletes. You need structure. You need systems. You need non-negotiable rhythms that force you to show up as the person you are becoming even when you do not feel like it. You need accountability that does not care about your excuses. You need environments that make it harder to stay the same than to change. This is how becoming happens. Not through motivation, not through inspiration, through structure that removes the option to quit. Fifth, you must eliminate every voice that validates your stagnation. There are people in your life right now who comfort you when you should be confronted, who understand you when you should be challenged, who support your excuses when they should be destroying them. And you have surrounded yourself with these voices because they make you feel better about not changing, but they are killing you, not with cruelty, with comfort. And you must remove them, not from your life necessarily, but from your decision-making process, from your inner circle, from the voices you listen to when you are deciding whether to force yourself forward or stay where you are. Sixth, you must measure your progress by your becoming, not by your doing. Most people measure growth by activity. How much did I do today? How busy was I? How hard did I work? But activity is not growth. Becoming is growth. The question is not how much did you do. The question is, who are you becoming through what you are doing? Are you developing the character that your assignment requires? Are you building the capacity that your dominion demands? Are you cultivating the wisdom that your authority needs? This is the measurement that matters. Seventh, you must understand that becoming is not addition. Becoming is subtraction. You do not become who you are supposed to be by adding new things to who you currently are. You become who you are supposed to be by subtracting everything that is not part of your original design. The sculptor does not add material to create the statue. The sculptor removes everything that is not the statue. And the same is true for you. Your transformation is not about gaining new skills. It is about revealing the original you that has been buried under layers of conditioning, trauma, fear, and false identity. Force yourself to grow by cutting away what does not belong. But here is what will happen when you actually start forcing yourself to grow instead of talking about it. You will lose people. They will not understand you anymore. They will accuse you of changing. And they will say it like it is an insult, like changing is a betrayal. But changing is your assignment. Becoming is your responsibility. And anyone who is offended by your transformation was benefiting from your stagnation. Let them go, not with anger, not with bitterness, but with the clear understanding that you cannot carry people into a dimension they are not willing to enter. You will also experience a death of identity. There will be seasons where you do not know who you are, where your old identity no longer fits, but your new identity has not fully formed. And this is terrifying because humans need identity. We need to be able to answer the question, who am I? But during the process of becoming, the only honest answer to that question is I am becoming. I am in process. I am being forced into alignment with my original design. And I do not have language for what I am turning into because I have never been this before. You will face resistance from your own mind. Your thoughts will try to convince you that this forcing is too hard, that you are doing too much, that you need to slow down, that you need to be realistic, that you need to protect yourself. But your mind is trying to protect your current identity. Your mind is programmed for survival, not for assignment. And survival wants you to stay the same because sameness feels safe. But safety is the enemy of becoming. Comfort is the enemy of transformation. And you must learn to override the voice in your head that is advocating for your limitation. And here is the confrontation that most of you need. You are out of time, not eventually, now. The window for your assignment is not infinite. The season for your becoming has a deadline. And you have been living like you have unlimited time to get serious. Unlimited time to stop talking and start becoming. Unlimited time to force yourself out of comfort and into transformation. But you do not. Every day that you spend announcing what you are going to do instead of doing it is a day you will never get back. Every conversation where you explain your potential instead of expressing it is an opportunity that dies. Every season where you choose comfort over growth is a portion of your assignment that gets buried with you. The graveyard is full of people who were going to become, who were planning to transform, who were about to start forcing themselves to grow. And they died with their becoming still in their throat. They died with their potential still in their imagination. They died with their assignment still in the planning phase. And nobody mourns what they did not become. Nobody knows what they did not produce. Nobody misses the version of them that they never forced themselves to be. You do not need motivation. You need revelation. You need to see that your current identity is a costume. It is not who you are. It is who you became through survival, through conditioning, through the accumulation of other people's expectations. And that costume must come off. Not gently, not gradually, with violence, with force. With the clear decision that you will no longer be defined by what you survived. You will be defined by what you were designed for. Stop talking. Not because words are bad, but because words without action are deception. Stop announcing. Not because vision is wrong, but because announcing without becoming is abortion. Stop explaining yourself. Not because understanding is useless, but because understanding without submission to transformation is procrastination dressed up as wisdom. Force yourself to grow, not when you feel like it. Now, today, this week. force yourself into the discipline that your assignment requires. Force yourself into the character that your dominion demands. Force yourself into the capacity that your authority needs. Force yourself out of the comfortable identity you have been protecting and into the terrifying process of becoming who you actually are. And when people ask you what you are doing, when they ask you what has changed, when they ask you why you are different, do not explain it. Show them. Let your transformation speak. Let your becoming answer. Let the product of your forced growth be the only announcement you need. Because the world does not need another person who can describe their destiny. The world needs people who have become their destiny. The earth is not waiting for another announcement of potential. The earth is waiting for the manifestation of what you were designed to produce. And that manifestation does not come through conversation. It comes through the violent, forced, disciplined process of dying to who you are so you can become who you are supposed to be. You were not created to talk about dominion. You were created to exercise it. You were not designed to explain authority. You were designed to demonstrate it. You were not manufactured to announce your purpose. You were manufactured to fulfill it. But fulfillment requires becoming. And becoming requires force. It requires that you push yourself beyond what is comfortable, beyond what is easy, beyond what your current identity can handle, into the space where you are being remade. Start today, not tomorrow, not when everything is ready, not when you figure it all out. Today. Choose one area where you have been talking instead of becoming. One dimension where you have been announcing instead of transforming. And force yourself into the discipline that produces change in that area. Give yourself 30 days. Not to see if it works. Not to try it out. Not to experiment. 30 days to die. To let your old identity in that area be buried. To submit to the violence of becoming. And at the end of 30 days, do not measure how much you did. Measure who you became. Measure what died. Measure what emerged. Measure the distance between who you were and who you are becoming. And if you do this, if you actually stop talking and start forcing yourself to grow, you will discover something that will change everything. You will discover that you were designed for this. That the pressure you thought was destroying you was actually developing you. That the pain you thought was punishing you was actually promoting you. That the force you thought was fighting against you was actually fighting for you. To push you out of the shell, to break you out of the cocoon, to pull you from the grave of your lesser self so that your greater self can breathe. This is your moment. Not to talk about transformation, but to submit to it. Not to announce your becoming, but to enter it. Not to explain your growth, but to force it. The time for description is over. The season for announcement has expired. You are now in the violent hour of becoming, and you must decide. Will you protect your comfort or fulfill your assignment? Will you preserve your current identity or submit to your designed identity? Will you keep talking or will you become it? Be original, not a copy. Die empty, not full of words. The time is now. Stop talking. Force yourself to grow. Become it.